We're back with another video. My name is Tori McKissick Jr., CEO of Eurovica and Eurovica Ships. Wouldn't really call this a podcast. What we're doing is just learn to document the process. I started my journey of entrepreneurship at 16, and over the years, many people, including you, told me to start recording stuff, document different things. So it took us 10 years to get to it, but we're doing it now. So with this, we just want to document stuff, not only for ourselves, but to show other people that victory is close ahead, that victory is possible. Then as we grow, we could go back and look at stuff and see like, oh, we came from this, we accomplished that, the relationships we built, and so on and so forth. But just creating that consistency and that reminder that victory is close ahead. And to me, my uncle, family, but to others, entrepreneur, husband, father, but introduce yourself to the people.
Well, it's great to be here. I'm Mel Smith. I just have the opportunity to be a great servant leader in the community. I am most proudly of the opportunities to really just sow back into the community, sow into the next generation. So it's just a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And one thing I want to ask you is that what's victory? Here at Eurovica, our whole thing is victory is close ahead. That's our mission. So remind people that victory is close ahead. What does victory mean to you?
Victory is everything. I think the win is actually not only that I win, but my team wins collectively. I think those that are around me definitely can glean and grow from the things, from our mistakes, some of our growth curves, as well as some of our failures. But what I will tell you is this, actually, victory for me is actually the deposits that I've made in people's lives just to see the fruit and the result of the things that actually were deposited in their life to come to fruition. So victory is just simply this. Honoring God in everything that I do. That's my victory.
All right. Over here. And before we get into too many other questions, for the people that have a little bit more insight of what you do as an entrepreneur, I know you're rocking cross culture on your chest. What is cross culture?
Well, Cross Culture 365 Ministries is a ministry that actually we do ministry every day of the year. We know there's no off days. The Bible says this in Colossians 3:17, whatever you do in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus. In essence, what that simply means is actually whatever we say, we're going to do what we say we're going to do. The other thing is what we do, we want to do it in a spirit of excellence. So for me, Cross Culture 365 Ministries, we live in a dark world with so many ebbs and flows. But one of the things I want to make sure of is anything we do, we want to do it in a spirit of excellence, especially in business. In business, you want to make sure that customer service is top notch. You want to make sure that actually your facilities are clean. You want to make sure that your product is great. So whatever you're doing, we just want to make sure that you honor God in doing it. So 365 Ministries is bigger than a church. Right. It's a movement. So everything we do, we want to make sure we do it with integrity. We want to make sure that we make positive impact, but also we want to make sure that we're always intentional. So if you're doing business in any vocation, make sure what you do, you're intentional about doing it. So I challenge you, continue to do what you're doing, press forward. But at the end of the day, make sure when you're persevering, that you never lose that passion, because your passion is what's going to drive you to what I call something called profit.
All right. And with that, I know you always talk about excellence, and I've seen it all my life. Like say my uncle, so I've seen you now in the stage of like full-time entrepreneurship, but also seen it with you've been excellent in everything you do, no matter if it's your own company or for other people companies as well. And one thing we never really talked about is like what was the biggest I guess concern or fear, but also the blessing of jumping out and doing doing entrepreneurship full time? Because I know either way, you commit excellence, so no matter if it's yours or someone else's. But what's that change from doing it not only for someone else, but doing it 100% for yourself and family?
Well, this is what I'll tell you. First of all, actually, it's always a privilege to be able to be used in any capacity for a bigger win. Sometimes we do things just for ourselves. So I do know everything that I do is bigger than me. What I will tell you is this, actually, I never discredit the small beginnings. Whether I was in the room carrying the boxes, whether I was in the room moving the chairs or the tables, I always had a listening ear. So I believe that actually by way of serving someone else gave me the ability to see how I would do some things that I can learn to do better. But one of the biggest things is stepping out on faith. I always say this because, one, not because I'm a pastor, but because I'm a follower of Christ. I will tell you this, my faith is bigger than my fear. Right. So actually faith It's so big that actually it trumps fear. It's greater. Fear is the false evidence of things appearing to be real, but my faith is predicated on the foundation of God. So I'll never take God out of the equation because he is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that I can ask or think. This is not a preaching moment. This is just principles that I use in my life. I know whatever I'm faced with, if God is with me, I can obtain whatever it is if he's ordering my steps and guiding me. So I'll say this, it's always, watch this, real believers are risk takers. So whatever you do in entrepreneurship is always going to be equated to a risk. It's always going to be equated to a sacrifice. But even in that sacrifice, in your service of excellence, this is the win for you is you know what you're doing is significant. And when you know that it's significant, it doesn't even feel like work. So when you go out and you step out, you know that you have bills and you have responsibilities. But those things come as a result. You always will get paid a premium when you do it from a place of passion and a place of excellence.
Right. Man, there's a lot you said just now, but there's two things we'll make sure they don't miss it. What was that FEAR acronym?
Fear, the false evidence of things appearing to be real.
Right.
Your fear should never cause you to just waver from what it is that you want to win in. Whether you're playing football, basketball, baseball, whether it's golf, whether you want to be an actor, musician, your practice, you will have some failure, but along through those failures, you always can have an opportunity to grow and to perfect your craft. Right. So whatever you're doing, I just say always make sure you understand fear is a part of your life, but at the end of the day, your faith is greater than your fear.
Right. That remind me of this video I watched one time. It was talking about the belief in fear, and saying with fear, it's a lot of like that you're manifesting, because if you tell yourself you can do something, or you tell yourself you can't do something, you're fearful of it. Either way, you made it up. Like both things were made up. So why not tell yourself something like positive, like, oh, I can do this. Like we don't know if it's gonna happen or not, but at least have that belief that you can do it.
So to that point, I'll share this with you as it relates to what you may have heard, what you may have experienced. One of the things I do know, fear is real. It deals with the emotional side. It deals with the mental side. It also deals with the physical part as well as the spiritual part. But biblically, it says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Right. In layman terms, I'll say it this way. Whatever you believe will determine what shall become. Right. Because what you believe will determine how you will move and how you will act. And how you act will determine what's just the final outcome. So it always starts in the mind. The Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So whatever thoughts that you have, if they're pure, if they're positive, if they're productive, guess what? If you continue to work along those lines, with those being your principles and precepts that will lead you, you'll always reach the finish line. Right. You may not reach it when you first start, but just know it's a process. Some people don't want to go through the process, so therefore they cannot experience the win. Right. The win is when you start, because once you start, you know you're moving in the right direction.
100%. And one thing I want to give, because everyone watching this may not be full-time entrepreneurs, they may be aspiring entrepreneurs, they might be people who work in a 9 to 5 and they work on their business from 5 to 9. And one thing you said earlier that I wanted to touch on was like be excellent in everything you do, because like, again, you work with other companies before being full-time entrepreneurship. I have as well. And those experiences, those relationships, like those help going forward. So you, like you said, you'll know what things you will want to implement in your company one day, and you know things that you wouldn't. So if you're working a job right now, but you have the aspirations, the goals, the belief that you will be a full-time entrepreneur, like don't let this time go by now if you just showing up and really not putting an input into your job. Like give it your best, do everything with excellence, because those skill sets, those relationships, those experiences will help you do your ultimate goal, your ultimate victory. So there's one thing I wanted to say with that. So the next thing, another thing I've seen all the time, you spoke on it at the beginning of the conversation, was about community and partnerships.
Absolutely.
One thing I noticed is like you always visible, always having strategic partnerships. What's for those entrepreneurs out there, or just even someone who wants to put themselves in a space of like-minded people? What's the importance of community and partnerships, and what's like one tangible thing they could do to put themselves in the right community and have the right strategic partnerships?
Great question. First, I want to start by just touching on two things. Two words I want to give everybody that may be watching, and as a reminder for you: relational equity. relationships are priceless. So how you handle your relationships really will determine the outcome of your business, your longevity. But you ask the question as, what are some of the things, how do you position yourself? I think actually being in posture, what are you passionate about? What would you do for free? And once you find out what you would do for free and what your conviction is to give back to the community, because there's always needs within the community. It could be food insecurity, it could be housing, it could be a number of things that are plaguing our community. But one of the things I will say is actually identify who's already doing it.
Right.
And you put yourself in a position where you can volunteer. I'm a servant leader. I learned how to serve by serving others. And as a result of serving others, it created opportunity and it created stability. But I'll give you 3 V's, just by way, I think, of victory. I'll give this to you. You always want to be visible, not serving to be seen, but visible, being in a place where there's something needs to be done. Right. The second would actually be being vocal. Sometimes there's a time to be silent, but there is sometimes a time to speak. When you say something, make sure it's of something of substance. And then the third thing would be this: you have to be vigilant. It's one thing to be there one time, but people are looking for consistency. We're looking for people that are committed, people that are courageous, but also consistent. And when you're courageous and you're committed and consistent, you're guaranteed to win.
Right. Yeah, it's modeling success. And with that being, like you said, those things you talk about being visible, that's one thing I noticed. The vocal part, I've worked on that over the years a little bit, but definitely the visible part, me being a part of events that you've thrown and just just being in different environments, even when there's times where I wasn't as vocal, I watched a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. It's just something as simple as like, okay, these entrepreneurs, they have haircut this type of way, or they present themselves this type of way, or okay, if I'm at a vendor event, this is how their booth looks. I wouldn't know that if I wasn't around. So it's like you said, visible, be invisible, going to those things so you could watch things. You could, you said not to be seen, but for people to know that you are there, because we talk about all the time in business. We have certain services that we offer, but if no one knows that we exist, then they can't.
Absolutely.
We can't serve them. So being visible, being vocal, and what's that last V?
Vigilant.
Diligent.
You got to be vigilant.
Yeah. And that consistency. So with all the community things you do in partnerships, I know one of your biggest heart pulls, biggest attention is around kids. I know you serve adults as well, but one of the biggest community parts is kids. What is normal character trait or skill sets you try to implement into kids so that way they can grow up and be productive adults, love God, and accomplish victory in their lifetime? What's that character trait or skills you?
Great question. I think by way of the question, I'll answer it this way. Our children are mimicking what they see, or they're modeling what's perpetuated from one generation to the next. So I'm always intentional about making sure that I give them positive exposures and experiences in their life. Outside of that, I will say this: to educate, to empower, and equip them to live a life of excellence. But excellence is relevant to the individual.
Right.
So therefore, that's where the exposure comes in at. I find out exactly where they are mentally. Then I ask them what are some of the things that they can see beyond right now. So there has to be a vision. So I try to get them to tap into a vision, something better and bigger than now. It's good to celebrate the now, but there always has to be a next. Right. So always, what's next? What's your next step? And if you don't know, I'm trying to show them opportunities so they can make an informed decision. May not say it exactly that way to children, but right. I try to show them glimpses of what their future could be.
Right. What's possible out there?
What's the possibilities of life? Right. And if you don't know, you don't know. I'll never forget this. I asked a young man, where would you like to go? Any restaurant of your choice. Won't call the name of the restaurant, but I was devastated by his answer, as if though that was the only thing that he could think of. Right. Out of all the restaurants that are here in Atlanta. One of the things he told me was that was his favorite family spot. Right. So that was a time when his family came together and they fellowship. So I try to build healthy relationships. I try to model what family can look like. But my biggest word is this: I love hard on all people, but I try to show them love and let them experience love. I know how to spell love is L-O-V-E, but I try to give them the acrostic love, L-U-V. I hope that they can listen to what's being said and what's not being said so they can always learn be a student for life. Then the U for me is actually, I'm always looking for unity. What things are you going to connect to actually catapult you to that next place of life? You're in the first grade, eventually you want to go to middle school. In middle school, you want to go to high school, and whatever your next choices may be. But I'm always trying to show them the next. And then the V is still just vision. Vision. Testing, well, you may not be the best test taker, but guess what? You still can be victorious.
Right. Now, love that. Love that. The last question I have for you today is, again, we using this platform to document everything. So we come back a year from now. My question to you is, in 1 year, what's the one thing you want to be victorious over?
Oh, in 1 year, in 1 year, I'll say this actually, because I believe that our responsibility and assignment is bigger than this current generation. But a year from now, I do something, I scale in things and I scale out certain things, but I'm always assessing what I do. I evaluate monthly. I start with me. So a year from now, I hope to actually have several other individuals that can sit down and have a conversation with your team collectively, because in essence, the more and more we make positive deposits, we now can send people out to duplicate the process of excellence.
Right.
From a biblical terminology, it's discipleship.
Right.
In a worldly terminology, it's mentorship. So how do we create other leaders that can influence society for a greater good so that everyone can win? If you can change one individual, you can change one household. If you can change one household, you can change one neighborhood. If you can change one neighborhood, you can change one county. If you can change one county, in essence, you can change one state. If you can change one state, you can change a nation. If you can change a nation, you can go global. So I always say, how can I be a positive influence and serve leaders such as yourself so that we're all significant and that we're all victorious?
Yeah. Thank you, man. Appreciate your time coming out today.
Thank you for having me.
Sharing not only with the viewers, but sharing with me too. It's got some acronyms I need to write down and share with the team. Got the LUV, love, got the fear. Got some notes right now. I'm gonna go back and watch this myself to take more notes. And remember, y'all, victory is close ahead. Whatever victory look like to you, you could do it. You will do it. And we out. Peace.
I will win.